So today's video is pure curiosity. Now look, I use the MagMod system. I love it. I think it's a great system, but putting this thing on over any flash, let alone a round head flash, is somewhat torture at times. And I'm finding myself taking it on and off all the time because I use it in different ways. So when I have to take this off, it drives me a little crazy. So I saw this on Amazon and purchased it. And I thought, I got to try this versus this and see which one's which, like which one's better. But when I pull this out of the box, now this comes in a really nice little package. It comes with a little case, all folded up. It's nice and flat. It comes with this little leatherette kind of plate case. It's small, it'll fit in a bag. I was really impressed by that. I pulled it out. I thought, wow, this is kind of cool. It's nice. And I'm thinking, oh, this has to be lighter than the MagMod one. But when I came back into the studio and picked this up, I don't know, this seems lighter. So this alone versus this alone, I wanted to first measure these and see what the difference was. So the MagMod one is 94 grams. And the Godox one is 108 grams. So this is a little bit heavier. But then you don't use this alone. You have to use the MagGrip with this. So this with the MagGrip is 153 grams. So it's about 49, 48 grams heavier for this versus this. So I thought, okay, I'll bring it in the studio. When I brought it in the studio under the lights, like right here on this rim, which this is the thickest part, it has like a kind of a magenta cast. And I'm thinking, okay, well, the whole thing kind of has a magenta cast. So I'm thinking, okay, maybe they made this for the V1 when the V1 had that greenish issue to compensate for the greenish issue. But I'm trying to figure out, is this going to change the color of any flash that I put it on? So I want to try this on the V100, one compared to the other. Again, I hate comparison videos, but I'm really interested to see, is there a color shift from this to this? And how does this hold up on the flash? Because it doesn't have this, really strong grip. Is it going to be much lighter on the flash? Will I notice a difference? I think I will because, 50 grams is 50 grams. And when you're holding the flash, because I hand hold, is it going to make that much of a difference? And, this has, several ways you can use it. You can collapse it just a little bit, or use the full bulb. How's the light quality? That kind of stuff. So I figured I'm doing this anyway, because this is my own curiosity. So why not film it and see what the differences are and see how these things compare? Now, I want to start with this one first because I'm really dreading putting that mag grip on. I just use this. It has a longer tab on the top. So I just use that longer tab to pull it over right there. And it's sturdy. It's not going to fall off during a shoot by any means. But I really see that magenta tint. So I'm just wondering, like, the color difference. So I think I should do a color test with and without this first on the V100 to see how that is, and see if there is a big difference. Yeah, I'm hoping there's not, but that magenta tint just seems to be there. So let's take a look and see how it is. So I'm going to start it in manual mode, obviously, and put it 1/4 power and just test the color temperature of the V100 with this on and then without it and see what the differences are. Okay, so I'm going to set the light meter to ignore the ambient light, and I'm just going to measure the color temperature of the flash itself. Now we're going to start without the bulb on it and see what our color temperature is. Okay, so without the bulb on it, our color temperature is 6,080 Kelvin, and my green shift is +1/8. So let's take a look at with the bulb and see if that changes. Okay, with the bulb on, Our color temperature is now 4,630 Kelvin. It is quite a change, but the green is at 0. So we're a lot warmer, and our green was fixed in the flash. Now we're going to switch over to the MagMod. Wish me luck. Now with the MagMod on, our color temperature is at 5,580, but we're still at the plus 1/8 green. So this one drops the color temperature almost 1,000 Kelvin. It takes it on the warmer side, but it gets rid of the green tint. And this one doesn't change the color temperature that much, but it leaves the green tint. Not really sure if that's a positive or negative with this, but I really want to try the V1 to see if there's a big difference with that, with this, and see what that green tint is, because this is a newer V1 that I have. So is this the newer V1s? Did they correct anything in the flash prior to shipping out new ones? Did they change that lens? Maybe this will be able to tell if it is. So let me switch over to that now. Okay, so now we're switched over to the V1. Okay, so without a reflector on the V1, I'm getting 6,640 Kelvin, and I'm at the plus 1/8 color green shift on the color temperature. Now, I really wanted to show you the color differences between the V1 and the V100. Number one, the V1 is much cooler and has much more of a green shift. You can see how much more green shift there is on the V1 versus the V100. That's a big difference. Now let's put this bulb on and see what our color temperature shifts to. Okay, so again, our color temperature dropped down to 4,940, and our green shift is at 0 now. So this does have a magenta cast to it to correct for green. Now look at the differences with the bulb on, 4630 versus 4940. But look at the green shift. It actually drops into the magenta a little bit on the V100 and corrects it quite a bit for the V1. I honestly, I think I would rather not having that green shift at all in my flash, uh, considering this takes it down to 0. But now let's test to see what the pattern is, to see if there's any difference in the pattern using this compared to the MagMod, because that's going to be a factor too. I don't think there will be. I think they'll pretty much do the same thing, but we'll be able to use this both out the way it is and then pushed in, just to see what the light difference is. Because I really want to test these as well to see what that light pattern is like. Okay, okay, so that's the coverage with Godoxes. That's a decent coverage. So I'm just going to leave the flash right where it is. I'm going to try like hell and put the MagMod on here to see what the MagSphere coverage is and see if there's much of a difference. So it looks like the coverage from the MagSphere is a wider coverage. I don't know if that's a plus or minus, but it is definitely a wider coverage. But let's look at them on the screen, and really see what they are. You know what? I didn't try putting this in and seeing what the coverage was, what this is put in like this. So let's do that just in case. Okay, let's see what the coverage is with that in. Well, I'm not going to show you on the screen because it's too hard to tell. So we'll look on the computer. I'll pull them up on the video here so you can see the differences and see if there's much of a difference. I mean, obviously it's a smaller form factor with it in like this. It's not pushed out all the way. So looking at the images straight out of the computer, you can tell that the Godox has a tighter beam, more of a hot spot, if you will, versus the MagMod, which is a wider and a much softer fall off, I think. But you can definitely tell the color shifts between the Godox and the MagMod. I'm not sure if that's a benefit at all. If I'm using a single flash, it may come across as a benefit because it's a warmer tone and it does, correct that green shift, which I hate in flash. And pretty much all flashes have it. Just the V1 has a much worse color shift than most others.